This guy was a character. I've been doing a lot of work recently looking at AI and how it has the potential to reshape corporate decision-making. We're on this cusp of something which feels really big and potentially a new epic era. It's something that changes the trajectory that we've been on, an inflection point, with the potential to dramatically shift how we think and live and believe going forward. We have these from time to time. So, for example, with COVID, reshaped everything that we knew at that point in time, reshaped a trajectory, and we had to make adjustments quite quickly. 9/11 in a single moment changed everything geopolitically, military, from a security perspective, economically speaking. If you go all the way back to when we landed on the moon, it changed science forever. At the end of World War II, Europe stood in ruins and the new nation of America was finding its power and Russia was rising. The Cold War ensued. As part of researching my last book, Judgment, Ted Hack, which is one of the characters that I interviewed and had a long and successful career with the U.S. Navy, the nuclear Navy, introduced me to Admiral Rickover. And he was truly a character, a slight man, slight in build, not imposing, didn't look like a military officer, avoided wearing a uniform as much as he possibly could. He was introverted, he was antagonistic, he was brilliant, but not in a traditional way. Not as a traditional military officer who was a good politician and a good glad-hander and had a powerful presence, but instead as an engineer and perhaps even more so as a manager. And Rickover was dedicated to serving. And in 1946, he began the journey of creating the U.S. nuclear Navy. Now keep in mind, at this point in time, the military power was about air superiority, large forces stationed close to battle centers or hotspots, and battleships parked offshore. There was not really a submarine force. We had diesel-powered electric boats that were able to patrol underwater for hours at a time and were extraordinarily dangerous. But we didn't have something that could stay underwater and hide and seek and prowl for weeks, months. Today, some never come back. They are out there for extraordinarily long periods of time, and it reshaped everything that we know about power in the world. Admiral Rickover single-handedly stood at the forefront of creating the U.S. nuclear Navy, presiding over the challenge of butting up against a traditional military, traditional powers within politics, within Congress, within his own ranks and his team. And this was a man, this is why he stood out to me, which is he's interesting, he's quirky. Ted Hack told about the fact that as a young officer coming out of Villanova and entering into the nuclear force, he was asked to go and do an interview with an admiral. In fact, it wasn't just the admiral, it was Admiral Rickover. And in fact, this was the standard protocol, which is that young officers coming out and entering into the nuclear Navy interviewed with the very top dog, Rickover. He interviewed over 14,000 officers in his 63-year career. He's the longest serving officer in the U.S. Navy. Ted talked about the interview. He walked in, the slight man is sitting on the opposite side of a desk behind some files and papers, and he's busy, and he looks up. It's uncomfortable, and something seems off. And what's off, Ted learned, was that the first 6 inches of the chair that he was sitting in behind that desk were cut off. That Rickover had the chair made more difficult to put physical strain and uncertainty onto these young officers coming into the nuclear Navy. Why did he do that? He was testing them under pressure. These interviews were antagonistic, they were odd, they were designed to provoke, and what he wanted to see is how you responded under pressure. Could you make good decisions under pressure? That's what he wanted. He had other techniques. something called the pinks. The pinks were weekly memos from these officers back to him to tell them what problems they were working on, what they were encountering, where they were getting their breakthroughs, and what was challenging them. Sometimes he went so far as to ask the secretaries to go dig through the trash bin and get the prior drafts of the pinks so that he could see the evolution in thinking of those young officers as they were coming along, including what they might not be telling him. He went on to create, from an engineering perspective, the first nuclear reactor that operated underwater. New materials, new design technologies, new manufacturing approaches. It was truly transformational, and it changed everything from that point forward. How did he do it? Again, we're working on what are some potential ahas. We want to provoke ahas in your own leadership and in your own thinking. What did he do? He encouraged friction. He required ownership of problems by everyone. He broke the bureaucracy, couldn't stand it. He encouraged the unorthodox. He encouraged passion. He was a brilliant manager that shepherded a complete change in mindsets, in leadership and management within a force that had tremendous inertia behind how they did things and success. They've been proven right time and time again. And here came this young upstart who was coming at the problem sets in extraordinarily new ways. I think it's extremely revealing as we encounter our own potential inflection points, where we step into the uncertainty, where we start to align for positions to make sure that we're winning and not losing, that we're not stuck in history, not stuck in the past, and moving forward. Think about these techniques and how they affect your own leadership, whether it be how AI might affect your own business or some other inflection point that sits on the horizon. Get ahead of that curve, lead through it, break the inertia, change the mindsets. That's it for now. I look forward to talking to you soon.